So there's one question that's been at the back of my mind pretty much since 2016, almost 5 years ago, but it's recently been brought back to the forefront of my mind thanks to some discourse on Sonic Twitter, as well as the fact that it's now the 30th anniversary and we're about to get game reveals, according to what they said in the brief. And that question is, does Classic Sonic need to die? Now, when I say die, it sound like dramatic shit, but like, you know what I mean? Like, do they need to retire this whole separation of Sonic thing that they've been doing for quite some time now? And I'm not talking about the franchise having different gameplay pillars, like the gameplay from the Genesis era versus Adventure era or the Boost era. I'm talking about the designs themselves, the separation of there are two Sonics. So we're gonna break all of this down and go into the reasons why Classic Sonic came back and why he doesn't need to stay back. This video is sponsored by Shadow. You know, Shadow, like the legendary character who like raids bases and stuff like that, you know, like Raid Shadow Legends. Like, yes, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Now I know what you're thinking. Raid Shadow Legends? I've literally never heard anyone talk about this before. Well, good thing I'm here to tell you about the game. Now, Raid is a free-to-play RPG mobile game where you battle it out against all sorts of enemies and real people in turn-based combat. And now it's also available on desktop too. You've got over 500 champions to collect, and you can make them stronger by using artifacts, leveling them up, improving their rank, and so much more. Now, I've actually been playing this game for a while, and one of my favorite things to do is pretty simple, but I just like to build my team, you know. I like to just collect champions and just buff them up. There's just something really satisfying about like struggling in a battle, leveling up your team, and then coming back to that same battle and just demolishing it. And there's so much variety in the moves you have in battle as well. I like to use the sparring pit to level up champions that I'm not currently using. They gain XP every hour while you're using your other champions to battle. And the game just got its biggest update ever last month. It's a new main event called Doom Tower, a giant tower with 120 floors and a bunch of secret challenge rooms and 12 insane bosses to battle. And the Raid team are giving away a bunch of free goodies to help everyone get started in the tower, and that includes a super special champion, Bulwark, and he's also great for clan bosses too. If you want to get a huge head start in Raid, all you have to do is click the link in the description below, and as long as you're a new player, you'll get your free Void champion Bulwark, 50 gems, an XP booster, some energy refills, and even an ancient shard as soon as you get in game. And you can get all of this treasure by tapping here on this chest icon. You can find me in game under this username on the screen. Maybe I'll let you join my clan and I'll see you in game. So yes, I do believe that Classic Sonic should not exist anymore, but there needs to be a clear distinction made. Before you get your pitchforks out, you 80s born Sonic fans who are about to come for me, or some of you Neo Classic fanboys, I know some of you were born after like Sonic Heroes and you grew up playing Mania and you become new school Classic fan. There is a difference between this and this. This is Sonic. This is Classic Sonic. This is the original Sonic that was on the Sega Genesis. This is Classic Sonic, which was named Classic so you could stand next to Modern Sonic and they would have separate names for the separate variations of Sonic. But before that, it was just Sonic. This is the reason why Dimps, when they were making the Advanced Trilogy, which was 2D games made to appeal to the classic fans, while we modern fans were getting our adventure era and living it up with SA1, SA2, and the GOAT Heroes, those games were for them, but they still use Green Eye design. Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure, which is the highest rated Sonic game on IGN. It is basically a Genesis Sonic style game for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, but it uses Green Eye design. Sonic 4, which I know there was some hardcore classic era fanboys who were mad that it had green eyes, but that was not the main reason why people didn't like Sonic 4. It's because the gameplay itself was not recreated. Now, speaking of gameplay, I want to touch on Sonic Generations for a bit, as this was the origin of the classic Sonic, separating of Sonics, not the original gameplay. Obviously, that's not the origin. Yes, Generations had Modern Sonic and Classic Sonic, which was used as a selling point. Obviously, it was a gimmick, and it worked for the one time. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have put Classic Sonic in Sonic Generations. I am one of those people, and I've been like this from the start, because I played Generations when it was coming out. I was there for the build scaled up, I never really wanted Classic Sonic there. I always preferred the mono levels even in the trailers, and when the game came out, I said even for someone who preferred the mono levels and 3D Sonic overall, I still had some fun in Classic Sonic Generations. They're well-made levels, way better than anything that was in Forces. There's a few levels in there that I even think are better than some levels from the Genesis era. Like Classic Sky Sanctuary was way better than the original Sky Sanctuary, to name one example. But yeah, I would have preferred had it just been a modern Sonic game and they just gave classic fans a different game, right? I guess we tolerated it because Sonic 4 was a dud. Like, had Sonic 4 come out before Generations, which I mean episode 1 did, but if it had come out and it had been like a masterpiece and then they gave us more of that gameplay in Generations, I probably would have been annoyed. Would I have removed it in exchange for 3 to 6 more modern levels added to the game? Yes, but I'm not going to knock points down for that. So yeah, that gameplay in and of itself is not a gimmick, but shoehorning it into a modern Sonic game is a gimmick, and it would have been fine had Iizuka realized that and not double dipped, but here we are. The next topic I want to touch on is the Black Eye versus Green Eye debate, because that's separate from Classic Sonic. Classic Sonic is that 3D Classic Sonic design being put into the same games as the modern games, but the Black Eye versus Green Eye debate is a little bit different, because although I've said there's a difference between the 3D Classic Sonic model and the original Genesis games, nowadays people use the term Classic Sonic to refer to all of that. So as a result, the Classic Sonic versus modern Sonic debate is more of a gameplay debate. It's more of a comparing 2D based momentum gameplay to adventure style gameplay, which is inspired by the Genesis, but it's still its own thing, reworked for 3D, versus maybe the Boost, which Adventure and Boost is still called modern, but we like to separate them if we want to go into further detail. The Black Eye versus Green Eye debate is more so, what design do you want to be the definitive Sonic design for everything? Because we know that there's two sides. Some people want Green Eyes for everything, and others want it to have just stayed Black Eyes from the jump. That way there would be no confusion, although there would have never been that newer design and Sonic would have looked like this, which no. Personally, as a modern fan, I would have been fine if they had used Green Eye design for a game like Sonic Mania. I don't think it was necessary to use Black Eye design. I get why they did it, to let them know that it's gonna be their Sonic game, but the fact of the matter is this: if the entire game was exactly the same and the design was just simply Green Eyes, most people wouldn't have complained, right? Now I get that can sound hypocritical, because I mean some of the classic fans tried to do the same thing to us and said, well, if Adventure 1 had Black Eyes, everyone would have been united and there'll be no problems in the fan base, kumbaya, which I don't think is true. I mean, I fell in love with Sonic when SA2 came out and I was a kid, and Sonic just looked so cool to me, and that cutesy classic Sonic design I don't think worked in 3D, and the creators of Sonic didn't believe it worked in 3D, which is why when they went to 3D they redesigned Sonic to give us modern Sonic. Because to unify Sonic's design and use a consistent design across every single game, regardless of what kind of gameplay it is so much simpler to follow, and that's why it worked so well in the 2000s. Back then, most of the debates were focused on the gameplay, and only a small amount of people were using the design as a point of contention. But for design unification to work, it means that one side has to fold. Basically, either Sega sticks to Green Eyes and all the games have Green Eyes, whether it's a Mania type game or a 3D game, and the Black Eye fans just have to get with the program, or vice versa, they stick with the Black Eyes regardless of the type of game, and the Green Eye fans and the modern design fans just have to get with the program and suck it up. Now we both know that's not gonna happen, let's be real. So we have to come to some kind of workaround. In my opinion, the solution here is that the word classic needs to be removed from our vocabulary. Already the classic fanboys feel so much more superior because their Sonic is called classic, and anything that's a classic is considered good. So it's like, we have the classics and the rest of you have the new shit, which is, you know, hit or miss, right? And it's created this huge divide in the fan base. Now technically, classic Sonic has only been in 2 games if we count Generations and Forces, but because the term has now been retroactively used to encompass everything that involves the Genesis era, it has now taken a meaning of its own within the community. This is the side effect of what they did in Sonic Generations, calling it the classic era. With Sonic Mania, it was not actually called Classic Sonic in the game, it's just Sonic, right? Which makes sense. There would have been no need for naming the Sonics differently if they were never in the same game together. Had Mania happened in a world where there's no Sonic Generations or Sonic Forces, people would have just called it a brand new 2D Sonic, like it said in the trailer, or a brand new old school Sonic or something like that. It would have just been a brand new Sonic game that just so happens to be 2D, as opposed to, oh, it's a classic Sonic game, or oh, it's a classic Sonic game, depending on what side of the battle you're on. Now obviously Iizuka breaking his word after saying that wasn't going to happen again after Generations has now created more confusion, because in Generations, Classic Sonic was really just past Sonic, but in Forces they changed it to Sonic from Another Dimension, which has really made this debate get more heated. defeated, because now you're taking something that was already causing a divide amongst the fans and now making it more and more convoluted. Izuku's basically gone, no, Classic Sonic is no longer just a past version of Sonic. It's not just younger Sonic. It's actually a separate Sonic. Your arguments are valid, your fighting is valid. They are two separate things. As opposed to the era where you were getting games like Sonic Advance, which did please a lot of classic fans, but was still a modern title, which at the time we wouldn't have called a modern title. We would have just called it a Sonic title, right? And the Advance games brought in new characters like Gemarol and Cream and whatnot. They added new elements like rail grinding, things that were in the modern era, but it still retained some core ideals from the classic games. Almost a hybrid of sorts. But now with these separate Sonics, you can't really do that. It's either a modern game or a classic game. Now this is mainly a problem with the classic fans because they have this kind of everything has to stay in that box, nothing's allowed to change mentality, whereas the adventure era is kind of built off of the classics and evolved from them, so we already have classic elements in that era, but because the classic fans came first, they don't want to put anything from the modern era in their classic games. Now I'm not trying to dismiss different gameplay styles, we all have our gameplay preferences, but I do feel like there's a point where things get out of control. Like if Sonic Mania 2 was made and they added rail grinding as an element, does that no longer make it a classic game even if the rest of the gameplay is momentum based? Like, are they allowed to add anything that wasn't from 1991 to 1994? I mean, they added the drop dash, I guess, to Mania 1. That's the only thing I can think of. But yes, there is some kind of, I'm gonna call this classic gatekeeping that exists within the fandom, where certain elements are classic only and they can only stay within classic games. They're not allowed to leave the classic games, and certain new ideas cannot be added to these classic games because these are modern elements and that would ruin the sacredity of the classic games and yada yada yada. Is it sacredity? Sacrality? Sanctity? And this gatekeeping is noticed the most when it comes to the characters. I'm sure at this point over 99% of us agree that there should never be two Sonics in the same Sonic game again. So we can just dead that right now, and hopefully Izuku's learned his lesson. And you would think that this alone would fix the issues we've been having with these two Sonic debates that keep coming up in the fanbase. But there's another level to this classic Sonic infighting that I want to discuss. Now this is a pretty toxic form of gatekeeping that I usually see amongst the classic fans, but I'm sure some modern fans do it too. And that is character gatekeeping. I hate this notion that certain characters, for example like Mighty, Ray, Fang, there's others, are classic characters, and certain other characters like Shadow, Silver, or Blaze are modern characters, and as such they can't be in each other's games. Like I made a video about Sonic Mania 2 and what I'd like to see in the game, and I mentioned having other playable characters like Shadow and Silver in there, and the classic fans got mad like you can't put them in, their modern characters and like, to say that this character was created, not canonically, because these Shadow's like 50, but say Shadow was created in 2001 for Sonic Adventure 2, so he's not allowed to be in a classic styled game because he's from the 2000s. Like, isn't that a bit ridiculous? And I feel like having these two Sonics has allowed people to take it to this level, especially once they start saying shit like classic Sonic is from another dimension. It's like, oh yeah, Fang and all this, they're from another dimension, that's why they can't be in the modern game. It makes sense now, they're not just from the past. And of course, because the Adventure and Boost era came after the classic era, we kind of just had characters from that era in our games, you know? Tails and Knuckles came from that era, Metal Sonic, Amy came from the classic era, they brought back most of the Chaotix for Sonic Heroes. Had we had to create a whole new set of characters from 1998 just to avoid using classic characters, that would have been ridiculous, right? Why is it that they can be in modern games, but modern characters can't be in classic games? Like, by that logic, literally 4 of the playable characters in SA1 are classic characters, and as such shouldn't even be there. It should just be Gamma and Big, and that's it. Like, if you're one of the people that they made a Mania 2 and the Mania 2 was like great, had great gameplay, Sonic was in there, Tails in there, Knuckles in there, and you got mad because Shadow and Silver are there, like, I just think that's ridiculous, honestly. And before some people try and go, well, you're a modern fan and you get angry at the fact that classic Sonic is in your game, so you're being a hypocrite, you're missing the point here. The reason why a lot of modern fans were mad at that 3D classic Sonic design is because he always gets added to modern games. It's never the other way around. He comes into our games, takes up half the gameplay, and then gets his own game as well in the same year. So it's understandably going to create some kind of animosity, especially when their game is coming out good and the modern game is not. And just the idea of having 2 of the same character in one game it's going to feel a bit weird. You're not talking about a variety of different characters, you're talking about two of the same character, just a smaller version that doesn't speak, who has completely different gameplay to everyone else in the game. Like in Forces, you have the main boost gameplay, which is Modern Sonic, you have the Avatar, which is based off of Modern Sonic's gameplay, but less focused on the boost, and then obviously you have the tag team. Classic Sonic is his own thing, he turns the whole game 2D, which, to be fair, the 3D levels have 2D in them as well, but it does change the gameplay drastically. In Generations, Modern Sonic and Classic Sonic are two completely different styles. The only thing they have in common is that both of them have some 2D in them, but Modern Sonic 2D is vastly different to Classic Sonic 2D, and we know that. So if Shadow was to be added to a Mania 2 or Silver, and he was still playing like a Mania character, maybe with, I don't know, a unique Shadow ability, same with Silver, maybe like some psychokinesis, it would still fit within the ethos of the game. It's not like Shadow and Silver are coming in, turning the entire game 3D and turning it into Shadow the Hedgehog 2005. Just like in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where Sonic plays differently to Tails and Knuckles, they go through the same levels, but there's different paths built for different characters. There's variety, but it's still all within the core ethos, right? But yeah, man, let me know what you guys think about this discussion. I know this whole Classic Sonic topic has gone on long enough, and we are getting closer and closer to the 30th anniversary reveals. They did say multiple games in development. I'm assuming at least one modern and one classic game. Hopefully Iizuka has learned his lesson. He's not going to mix and match again, and also hopefully they don't make one game good and leave the other one in the dust like they did 4 years ago. As much as I want to simplify this whole debate, the fact of the matter is it's too late for that. Unless the company puts in the effort into doing that, we're just going to be stuck with this separation for the rest of the series until they add new separations. But you know, I tried. But yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, subscribe to the Non-Sonic channel, link in the description. But that's all I have to say right now, so Doremi out.